You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's November the 10th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. You're found here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How are you doing?
Good morning, Al. I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Not doing too bad. I'm just dealing with some snow.
Oh,
Sorry for the foul language, folks, but yeah, snow.
yeah, we're getting your weather today here, but it's warmed up, so we're getting rain.
You're getting rain. Well, we got about 4 inches of snow on Sunday. So, yeah. And the school buses are canceled. We got that much snow.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think 4 inches would stop buses, but, you look at the side roads and stuff like that can be a hazard for the buses, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I have family that is in northwest end of our province, and their buses weren't canceled, but ours were. I don't know. Each one's based, separately, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah. And they got lots of snow as well up there.
Yeah, well, northern Ontario gets more snow naturally, and they might be more ready for it.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. So, and it's November. We don't normally get we're in Canada, so on and so forth. But it's been years, but I think we've got snow before Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
It's been a long time for us. I can remember when I was a kid, we would have snow at Halloween, but it's been a while.
Oh, I remember going out with my mom buying my outfits, my costumes, 2 sizes too big because she'd do me all up in my winter pants and coat, and then the the costume would go on over that.
Exactly. Talking about winter and stuff like that, let's change from the weather to what's going on next week. You've got a talk coming up.
Yeah, I do. I'm nervous. I'm very, very excited. Next Monday evening, please come join me at the Halifax Regional Library in the BMO room starting at 6:30. I'm going to have a chat talking about the medicines I work with and the ailments that they are good to help you gain tools to help fight. I am nervous and excited about this talk. We have the room for an hour, so we have a little chat by me, and then we have some time for some questions afterwards as well. This will be going out over the interwebs, and I will be making sure that Al has all of the information to put it on both the PACE sites and on the Mushy Moment site as well on Facebook. So you should be able to find the link easily to join.
That's right. Yeah, looking forward to it. We'll broadcast it here on the network because it's Monday night and we don't have a regular scheduled program for that night, and it'd be great to help reach out even further. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, from snow and psychedelics, it's time for us to get to today's news. We've got 10 stories. We're talking psychedelics and cannabis for the next hour, every other story, and here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from StratCan, Canada's Cannabis Legalization Initiative, Funding, Outcomes, and Departmental Spending.
A recently shared departmental results report from Health Canada highlights a horizontal initiative and associated spending by the Canadian government for the legalization and regulation of cannabis spanning from April the 1st, 2018 to March the 31st, 2025. This initiative was implemented and renewed once with the first phase covering 2017 to 2022 and the renewal from 2022 to 2025. Health Canada is the lead department with partner departments, including the Canadian Border Services Agency, the Public Health Agency of Canada, Public Safety Canada, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Other government departments like the Department of Justice support the framework but are not part of the initiative's target funding. The initiative has two shared outcomes: keeping cannabis out of the hands of Canadian children and youth and reducing the illegal cannabis market.
Polling shows that cannabis use has decreased slightly in the 15 to 17 age group, as has that of youth in grades 10 to 12, who reported frequent cannabis use. Similarly, Canadian youth are more likely to associate cannabis use with harm than they were before legalization. The percentage of the estimated total market demand captured by the legal market has continued to increase since 2018.
The total 8-year federal funding from start to end date was holy cannoli.
I know, eh? I read that earlier.
I believe this is what, $1,047,187,948 in authorities, with actual spending of $965 million. Health Canada, Theme 1, implementing and enforce legislative framework. Holy cannoli, almost $700 million. Theme 2, which is provide information to Canadians, was $26 million. And the internal services was almost $80 million. This is the actual spending.
Yeah. When I read this report this morning, when I got to that 1 billion number, I had to double check. Hang on here. I mean, there's a lot of zeros in there. Public Health Agency of Canada, this Theme 2 provides information to Canadians, was $4,755,000. Internal Services was $549,155. Public Safety Canada, their Theme 2, which provides information to Canadians, was $1,143,000. Theme 3, Enhanced Data, Knowledge, and Tools, was $5,643,000. And Internal Services, another $1 million there.
The RCMP spent money in Theme 4 to provide intelligence, enforcement, and security screenings, and that was almost $75 million. Again, actual spending here, folks. Yep. And internal services were $13.5 million. The Canadian Border Service Agency on Theme 5, which was prevent cross-border movement, almost $55 million, and internal services, $5.5 million.
Yeah, there were 399 license applications approved out of a total of 417 license application decisions made between November 2018 and March 2019. This increased to 2,261 applicants in 2019 to 2020, and 1,700 in 2020 and 2021. So there you go. That's a dough, eh?
Wow.
We
say billions a lot. Like, I mean, when we talk about different things, but it's usually written out. To see the number typed out in numbers like that is, woo.
Yeah, let's say like 1.4 billion or something like that with the word billion. Not having to look at all those different commas in there. Yeah, bit of a surprise when I read it as well. So
holy cannoli.
Yeah. All right. From cannabis, we shall move on to the next story, which I got to find. There it is. All right. Here we go.
Coming to us from McGill Newsroom. McGill study reveals knowledge gap about psychedelic therapies in adolescents.
There is a growing interest within the medical community in the use of psychedelic therapies to treat conditions ranging from depression and PTSD to anxiety and eating disorders. New research led by McGill University and published in the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health has found that while adolescents under 18 might also benefit from these types of treatments, they have been excluded from current clinical research in the field due to ethical, legal, and regulatory concerns. The lack of clinical evidence makes it difficult for clinicians and adolescent patients to make informed decisions with respect to the use of such therapies for this age group. The researchers found that of the 1,600 psychedelic studies registered or published between January 2000 and April 2025, only 4 had proposed including participants under 18. None of these studies have been completed or published.
The researchers point out that many young people with mental illnesses don't respond to standard treatments, and some will face lifelong impairment or worse. A 2020 review in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry found that approximately 1 of these 3 adolescents with major depressive disorder will not improve with standard care involving antidepressant medication and psychotherapy. They also warn that many clinicians already prescribe psychiatric drugs to adolescents without age-specific evidence from clinical trials. The use of MDMA and psilocybin-assisted therapies may follow the same path unless research is completed before they are made clinically available, they argue.
As professionals in the fields of psychedelic therapy and adolescents' mental health, we face an ethical imperative not to ignore adolescents, but instead to anticipate risks, test safeguards, and develop clinical knowledge in the field, says the lead author, Gail Rajwani, a PhD candidate at the McGill University Department of Philosophy, who studies ethical issues in psychiatry and mental health. Now, the authors know that psychedelic therapy at earlier ages may carry heightened risks, including impacts on cognitive and social development, or potentially higher risk of adverse experiences compared to adults. However, they emphasize that these risks, which can vary with age and context, must be weighed against the serious consequences of untreated or treatment-resistant mental illness.
The team calls for initial research in the field to proceed with great caution in populations with the greatest foreseeable risk-benefit ratio, with robust consent processes in place. We currently have essentially no clinical evidence about how psychedelic therapies might affect adolescents. This is said by senior author Brian Earp, who is an associate professor at the Center for Biomedical Ethics at the National University of Singapore. Cautious and ethical responsible research can help us move beyond speculation and begin to assess whether emerging psychedelic therapies can benefit adolescents with unmet needs.
There you go. What do you think? It's something I never really thought about.
With the studying I've done with different medicines I've done, one of the things I've learned about medicines, especially these ones that have been around for millennia, such as psilocybin or combo, iboga, the tribes who have them feed them to their kids.
Wow.
I mean, they start at birth, even before birth, with the medicines, why the mom does them, or, if they get sick, combos, parents in the Shipibo would use combo to help flush the illness from the child. And, they use it in traditional ways with their kids. And I'm sure that is one of the reasons why modern day scientists are kind of raising an eyebrow to it and want to find out why.
Yeah. Oh, you got a good point there about the, tradition, stuff like that. But yeah, I just never thought about the psychedelic ends when it came to the children. Yeah. Myself personally, I wasn't a child, but I was barely an adult, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's, I think it can be beneficial. Why not? I know if they can determine that ahead of time, they talk about being able to sort of tell whether they can help out with addictions and stuff. We've reported in some of the stories. Maybe they could do an analyze on kids that have mental health conditions that could benefit and check them for any conditions that may be concerned with.
Yeah, and if we can do this as a preventative way of helping them be healthier, more stable adults, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. All right. On to the next story. Here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Normal. Survey, pain patients often substitute cannabis for prescription opiates.
Patients report reduced pain and a decrease in their use of prescription opioids following their initiation of state-authorized medical cannabis products, according to the survey published in the journal Substance Use and Misuse. Investigators affiliated with the University of Louisiana surveyed responses from over 2,000 Louisianans registered to participate in the state's medical cannabis access program.
Following their use of cannabis, respondents reported lower pain levels by an average of 3.4 points on a 10-point scale. That's huge. A finding that is consistent with prior studies. Patients who reported either decreasing or ceasing their use of certain prescription medications were far more likely to report consuming greater quantities of cannabis as compared to those who did not. This finding offers some confirmation of the substitution between opioids and medical cannabis researchers determined. The results from the study align with the growing literature of the consumption patterns of medical cannabis, the study's authors concluded. In our study of medical cannabis use in Louisiana, it has significantly reduced pain, and for those using it, decreased opioid use. More research is needed to understand how this substitution leads to fewer drug-related deaths, a major critique of opiates. More research is needed. Yeah, we've had a lot of research, and we know it works.
Yeah. Nearly 1 in 3 patients with chronic pain acknowledge using cannabis as an analgesic, and many report substituting it in place of traditional analgesics, sleep aids, analgesics, and other prescription medications. I am one of those people because I knew I had that choice back in 2003, 2002, cannabis or opiates. I chose cannabis instead. And the only spot I had any opioid medications was when I was hospitalized. It was just cannabis. And, it didn't always kill all the pain. It dulled it. But I'm glad I'm not an opiate stat, and part of cannabis. Way to go.
Yeah, I am an opiate stat, but I am also a success story for cannabis, showing that it can help you get sober.
Yeah, and what I was referring to is the opioid stat was the overdose deaths.
Overdose death, yeah.
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 Yep. Alrighty, on to the next story.
Here we go. Coming to us from medical news today, psychedelics may rewire brain to improve depression treatment studies.
While many people may consider psychedelics to be solely a recreational drug, research indicates that this drug class can be helpful in treating mental health issues such as depression and addiction. The researchers in the new study aim to better understand how psychedelics impact the brain, particularly the neurons involved in thought and emotion. For that, they used the psychedelic DQI on rats.
On rats. They found that psychedelics influence a brain pathway, suggesting potential to rewire the brain and improve treatment for depression and other mental disorders. And their findings are published in the journal eNeuro.
Yeah, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention addressed mental health in 2024. That shows how widespread depression and anxiety are in the U.S. And the study notes that around 18% of U.S. adults reported recently experiencing symptoms of anxiety, and 21% reported having symptoms of depression.
There are many treatments for depression and anxiety, including antidepressants, such as citrulline, which is Zoloft, Wellbutrin, they give us the name there, and so many others. There are only 2 of dozens and dozens. Many people with these disorders also go to talk therapy. Some studies have examined the use of psychedelics in treating mental health conditions and found they offer faster and sometimes longer lasting relief after just 1 or a few treatments compared to traditional antidepressants that you are taking handfuls a day, every day.
Yeah. Psychedelics act on serotonin receptors in the brain and can trigger deep changes in brain cognitivity, and emotion processing within hours. Federally, psychedelics are still considered Schedule 1 substances. However, a few states have legalized them for therapeutic use, while others are exploring the same. Oregon, for example, legalized the use of psychedelics to treat anxiety, depression, and addiction.
The researchers in the new psychedelic study hope that exploring and learning more about the neural pathways in which these medicines work will further strengthen the case for using them therapeutically. The scientists focused on two brain regions in their study, the colostrum and the anterior cortex, the ACC.
Yeah, the colostrum is significant because it is sensitive to psychedelics and, according to the researchers, has the highest 5-HT2A and 5-HT2CR expression in the brain. These are serotonin receptors, which are significant because they are implicated in depression.
Mm.
Then the ACC, which is responsible for processing and controlling emotions, is affected by depression.
To see how psychedelics impact neuroplasticity, the researchers experimented on male rats. Each rat was housed individually, anesthetized, and then studied to examine brain activity. The scientists used electrical signals to see how strongly neurons in the colostrum responded, both with and without psychedelics.
Under normal conditions, the simulation weakened the connections between neurons, causing what the researchers described as long-term depression. However, when the psychedelic DOI was introduced, it had the opposite effect and made these same connections stronger, causing long-term potentiation. The psychedelic strengthened synaptic connections and promptly promoted neuroplasticity.
The findings point to the colostrum and the ACC as important areas where psychedelics might reshape brain function. By strengthening communication between these regions rather than weakening it, psychedelics could help support the lasting improvements seen in people who undergo psychedelic therapy for depression and anxiety.
Overall, the results suggest that psychedelics can quickly and persistently change how brain cells connect and adapt, which may explain their long-term positive effects on mood and thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Dustin Hines, who's a PhD, an associate professor of neuroscience at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, who was not involved in the study, spoke with Medical News Today about the study's findings. These findings really extend what we already know about how psychedelics affect the brain by showing a concrete cellular mechanism for something we've mostly inferred from imaging studies, says Hines.
Hines noted that existing research points towards psychedelics being able to enhance communication between brain regions, and this study pinpoints the colostrum. Yeah. Now, Rachel Hines, an assistant professor for neuroscience at the University of Las Vegas, Nevada, who was not involved in the study, also spoke with MNT about the study.
Rochelle Hines explained in more detail how the connection between the colostrum and the ACC plays a key role in how the brain manages attention, emotions, and self-awareness. The colostrum acts like a conductor, coordinating activity across the brain regions, while the ACC contributes to evaluating emotional salience and guiding adaptive behavior, she says.
Yeah, she goes on to say, dysfunction in these circuits has been linked to depression and obsessive rumination, so demonstrating that psychedelics can shift plasticity in this claustrocortical pathway offers a plausible substrate for their enduring antidepressant and anti-rigid thinking effects. Now, Hines did note that there are some potential downsides to the effects of psychedelics can have in these areas.
Excessive or poorly integrated connectivity, especially between sensory integration hubs like the colostrum and the emotional evaluators of the ACC, could contribute to overbinding of information, which may manifest as hallucinations, anxiety, or cognitive confusion. Yeah, I guess that's it.
I'm just scrolling down here. There's more. This morning, you got to go keep going down.
According to the World Health Organization, more than 300 million people worldwide are estimated to experience depression, and a similar number of people are thought to live with anxiety, as people often experience such mental health conditions simultaneously, which is referred to as comorbidity, and many do not seek treatment. The real number is likely a lot higher.
Yeah. Until now, researchers' approach to treating anxiety and depression is largely focused on striking a delicate balance between chemical messengers in the brain. The plethora of medications prescribed, such as SSRIs, all work around that principle. Now, studies in hallucinogenic compounds, however, have shown that such drugs can help the neurons in the brain talk with each other via neurotransmitters or chemical messengers. This has led to the emergence of the network theory.
There really has been almost like a paradigm shift in the way we look at the pathophysiology of depression. It used to focus on chemical imbalance. Now it has shifted to look a little bit more as a disorder of synaptic plasticity, as well as neural interconnectivity. This is Adrian Ambrose, who is a psychiatrist. In the latest episode of our In Conversation podcast, we discussed the newest research into the neuroscience of anxiety and depression and how this may change the future of treatment with Dr. Ambrose, medical director of the Columbia Psychiatry Practice Office. Dr. Ambrose also specializes in interventional neurotherapeutic psychiatry, working with ketamine, ECT, and TMS in the treatment of resistant mood disorders.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling down. Okay. It is a long article. We're barely even halfway through it by the looks of this spot over there. So we'll just finish up here and we'll go on to the next story. But it says that this conversation starts with spotting the signs and symptoms of these conditions and the talks of anxiety. It says that when anxious, I can feel like butterflies inside and my hands are sweaty. And you can feel very, I don't know, on edge. But then with panic attacks or anxiety, I get very hyper ventilated and struggle to breathe. Yeah. We'll put this up on our Facebook page if it's not already there. And that way people can finish it off because it's a long story. But there's lots of good news in there. Right?
Amazing.
All righty. Break time. And it's time for us to hear from our sponsors. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a good idea.
All righty. We'll be right back. You're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Education News. We're live here at paceradio.net, 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education. Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back. We're live, and we got some more psychedelics cannabis education news to bring you. Here we go. What do you say? Get right at it.
Coming to us from Cannabis Health, cannabis-based medicines and women's health, evidence and knowledge gaps.
In the face of long NHS waiting lines and the lack of options in mainstream healthcare, many women are turning to alternative treatments to manage menstrual-related symptoms. NHS gynecology waiting lists have more than doubled since 2020, with more than 750,000 women currently waiting for diagnosis and treatment.
Against this backdrop, medical cannabis clinics are reporting an increase in women looking for support with perimenopause and menopause symptoms, as well as gynecological conditions such as endometriosis and adenomyosis. Women are also significantly more likely to be impacted by anxiety, pain, and sleep deprivation, which are some of the most common indications for which cannabinoids are used. Alternative recently launched the first clinical service focusing specifically on women's health conditions. A poll of 500 NHS doctors conducted by the clinic found that 3/4 believe treatment options for women's health conditions such as endometriosis, PPMD, and menopause are too limited. Overall, 80% of GPs said they would be open to prescribing CBPMS for these conditions if they were part of the NHS toolkit.
Observational research shows that many women report significant benefits from these treatments, but there's still a lot we don't know about their effect and how they work in women specifically. There is a growing database of real-world evidence from around the globe reflecting the experiences of women using cannabis.
Yes. In a Canadian survey, over a third of women reported using cannabis to help them manage some of the common symptoms of menopause, including sleep, pain, and anxiety. While separate research from the Menopause Society indicated that women over 50 are the fastest growing group of cannabis consumers in the U.S. While research specifically into the benefits of cannabis for perimenopause and menopause is limited, there are promising findings in studies investigating the use of cannabis in pain-related symptoms and gynecological conditions like endometriosis.
Results from one of the first studies of its kind found that CBD suppositories significantly reduce the frequency and severity of menstrual-related symptoms, as well as the impact of symptoms on daily functioning and the need for other analgesics compared to those using traditional painkillers. A systematic review published in 2022 examined the results of several studies on adult women who use cannabinoids for gynecological pain conditions, including chronic pelvic pain. Oh, can't pronounce that one. Endometriosis and interstitial cystitis. They found that between 61 and 96% of the women reported pain relief. Cindy, would you like to try those words for me?
Vulvodynia, endometriosis, and intestinal cystitis.
There we go. Okay. Now,
best guess. I said that's best guess. The only one I know for sure is endometriosis.
Yeah. Same here. Now, in endometriosis, patients based in Europe, cannabis was found to have a significant impact on well-being and quality of life, leading to substantial improvements in symptoms. Data from Australian researchers suggests that the majority of patients using cannabis to manage symptoms of motris found it to be superior to pharmaceutical medications.
The NHS is currently funding clinical trials into the effects of CBD and endometriosis, with researchers at the University of Edinburgh finding it is a promising therapeutic agent due to its analgesic, anti-inflammatory, immunodulatory, and anti-analgesic, anti-proliferative, and neuroprotective effects. Wow. But we also need more robust clinical trials, specifically focused on the impact of cannabinoids in women.
There is still a lot we don't know about the biological differences in how cannabis affects women. For example, some research has shown that female hormonal fluctuations may increase sensitivity to THC, but other studies found little difference in the effects of vaporized cannabis among men and women. Women remain underrepresented in clinical trials, and stigma and fear around consumption can prevent them from engaging in open dialogue with healthcare professionals.
Researchers in Australia found that over half of women using cannabis to manage symptoms of endometriosis were concerned about the negative impact of stigma associated with cannabis and how this might affect their day-to-day lives, with only a third telling their doctors about their consumption. Cannabis-based medicines show growing promise for managing symptoms and improving quality of life in women's health conditions, particularly where conventional options are limited.
But while real-world evidence is compelling, rigorous female-focused trials and open clinical dialogue are essential to ensure safe, informed, and equitable access to care. There you go.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, we always find something that's new, or things that come up, and stuff we may not normally see in mainstream media. And it's good to be able to get these studies and reports out to people. And talking about studies and reports, there we go. We got another one.
Got another one coming to us from News GP. DVA to fund psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy.
Yes. Veterans can now access funding for psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy treatments to address post-traumatic stress and treatment depression. The federal government announced this week, just so you know, folks, this is Australia, okay? It's not Canada or the US. This is Australia. These include medications with MDMA to treat veterans with PTS, as well as psilocybin to help patients with TRD, which authorized psychiatrists are able to prescribe under changes, but to put in place by the Therapeutic Goods Administration in 2023.
Yeah. The move, which was a world first, attracted both praise and controversy, with some questioning whether there was enough evidence around the efficacy and safety of the treatments. Dr. Karen Spielman, chair of the RACGP Specific Interest Psychology Medicine, has been closely following discussions around psychedelics for difficult to treat psychiatric conditions, particularly through her work with patients with eating disorders.
She believes GPs longitudinal understanding of patients will prove central for assessing their suitability, and sees an important role for GPs to work with psychiatrists to manage medication withdrawal. She also notes that treatments are targeted at patients who have not responded to previous interventions.
We were all aware that there's no one size fits all for psychiatric treatment. And it's really important that we are aware of the changing landscape. This is Dr. Spielman telling News GP. It's certainly worth considering because in a group of people that are hard to treat, it's offering hope.
Psychedelics provide quite a hopeful paradigm shift for treating complexity, whether it's treatment-resistant depression or PTS. Certainly for my patients, she says, it's been lovely to be able to talk hopefully about new treatments and see authorized prescribers who have experience and research being implemented locally.
The Department of Veterans Affairs, the DVA, says greater clinical scrutiny will be applied to any funding request due to the risks associated with emerging treatments, with no funding to be provided without prior approval from an authorized prescriber. The treatments are a fourth-line clinical option, with the DVA stating there needs to be evidence of multiple prior treatments of typical agents or therapies and how they have failed before they are considered.
Associate Professor Carolyn Johnson, who sits on the RACPG Expert Committee, Quality Care and its mental health working group, notes that with an emerging evidence base, the requirements seem sensible. She says that for GPS, it will mean knowing that an adequate trial of multiple, example, 2 according to the guidelines, other acceptable therapies for PDS and TRD look like, and then knowing where to find psychiatrists who are willing to treat eligible veterans, she told them.
Yeah. Ideally, these will be prescribers who are working in practices where ongoing rigorous research is conducted into both the benefits and harms of these emerging treatments. When the changes to the medicine scheduling took place in 2023, the TGA said its decision acknowledged the current lack of options for patients with specific treatment-resistant mental illnesses. Yeah.
It means that psilocybin and MDMA can be used therapeutically in a controlled medical setting, the regulatory stated. However, patients may be vulnerable during psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, requiring controls to protect these patients.
The DVA said the decision to fund treatment is a welcome move for veterans with ongoing symptoms. The approval of these treatments is encouraging news for the veteran community, particularly for those who have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress injuries or depression and have persistent symptoms despite undergoing usual evidence-based treatments, it stated.
It said retrospective applications for funding will not be approved, and current serving Australian Defence Force members and veterans visiting or residing overseas are not eligible for the treatment. Yeah. So there you go.
It's a start. It's a really big, huge, massive start.
That's right. Exactly. And, you know, like, as it says, they're not waiting to the final yes or no through the research. They are moving on with things so that veterans can get this assistance or this help while the research continues.
Yes.
Right. So, which is, I look at that as a good thing.
Yes.
You know, there's lots of anecdotal evidence out there. They always wait until they get the science-based evidence, right?
Well, I mean, that's what they want. The scientists want what they want. The thing that I find frustrating with that is, you know, you have to check all of these boxes. So you have to try this drug and you have to try this drug. And, oh, look, you got addicted in the middle of it. So that's the part that bothers me. Like, why can't we just do the medicine that is non-addictive and non-invasive and do all of this first?
Yeah. Yeah. And when cannabis became legal for medical patients, it was supposed to be the last resort.
Yeah.
Basically, that sounds similar to what they're talking about with the psychedelics and things. Okay. Time to move on to the next story.
Here we go. Coming to us from StratCan. Legal cannabis market drove over $6 billion in Canadian household spending in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, that would be 9 zeros after that 6, just letting you know.
Yeah, that's right. Canadian households spent over $9 billion on cannabis in 2024. The majority coming from the legal market. Monthly retail sales of cannabis also reached a new high point in August, with basically $500 million. Now, the newest figures from Stats Canada show household spending on cannabis products from licensed producers, as I said, $6 billion in 2024. That's up from $5.8 billion the previous year.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Household spending on cannabis products, non-medical, recreational, from unlicensed sources accounted for another
Mhm.
2.654 billion that they know of in 2024, down a 2.811 billion in the previous year. In 2024, household spending on cannabis products also, for the first time, surpassed the highest recorded annual spending from non-licensed sources, which was 5.844 billion in 2014.
Household spending on cannabis products for medical use in Canada in 2024 was 453 million, up from the two previous years, but still down from its previous high of 603 million in 2019. Now, household spending on cannabis from licensed sources, non-medical, surpassed that spent on cannabis from unlicensed sources in 2020. Statistics Canada figures do not distinguish between licensed and unlicensed sources for medical cannabis household spending.
Monthly retail sales of cannabis also reached a new high point in August of this year, at 4.98.9 million, basically $500 million worth,
Yeah.
up just under 1% year over year from the previous high watermark of just slightly lower than that in August of 2024.
Yeah.
Statistics Canada rates its monthly figures as excellent, very good, good, and acceptable. Of the 32 months covered in this time period, the data for 29 were rated as excellent and 3 were rated as very good. These figures can be updated over time as new information comes in.
Looking at gross domestic product at basic prices for the cannabis industry at the provincial level, Ontario has the highest at $4.7 billion, followed by BC at 1.6 and Quebec at a distant third at 668 million. All provinces saw an increase in the cannabis industry's contribution to the provincial GDP, except Alberta, which saw a 16.7% year-over-year decline in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would still be
Decline.
curious what the per capita numbers are, because when legalization first hit, my tiny little province here, the second smallest in this country, we had the highest amount of sales according to per
Yeah.
capita. So if you divide how many people, how much we spend, we person to person spent more than anybody else in the country.
Yeah, I remember there was a report on that quite a while ago. Whether there's
Yeah,
going to be a new report, we'll find out,
I'd be
right?
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All righty. Last story of the day.
Yes. Coming to us from Observation Post. It's a review. In Waves and War shows promise of psychedelics to treat PTSD.
By the time the first quote from Homer's Odyssey fades from the screen, by now I am used to suffering I have endured so much in waves and war. It is clear what kind of story In Waves and Wars wants to tell. The new documentary from directors John Schneck and Bonnie Cohen is not about the battles Navy SEALs fought overseas, but the ones they continue to face long after shooting stops. It's a film about endurance, recovery, and what happens when the toughest people in the world have to confront pain they can no longer muscle through.
Wow. Premiering at the 2024 Telluride Film Festival and available to stream on Monday on Netflix. So that's today. In Waves and War follows a group of SEAL veterans struggling with the lasting effects of war. The men in the film carry both visible wounds and invisible ones, and they speak openly about the cost of years spent in combat and separation from family. Rather than centering on the operations that made them legends, Shank and Cohen's cameras focus on what came afterwards: the sleepless nights, the fractured relationships, and the fight to feel whole again.
At the heart of the documentary is the question of whether psychedelic-assisted therapy can help veterans reclaim their lives. The film explores experimental treatments, involves ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT, two substances currently not approved for clinical use in the United States. The veterans travel to treatment centers in Mexico, where these psychedelics are administered under medical supervision. For many of the film's subjects, the treatment represents a last-ditch effort. After years of failed prescriptions and therapy, the results, at least on screen, are startling. What begins as a documentary about pain gradually becomes a story about possibility.
Oh my God, I'm going to go watch this when we're done.
Yeah.
The film features several central figures, each with a distinct journey. Marcus Capone, a former SEAL whose wife describes him as a monster after returning from multiple deployments, becomes one of the movement's leading advocates. Through his nonprofit, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, Capone helps others find the same lifeline he credits with saving his marriage and his life. DJ Shipley shares how the weight of 2 decades in the teams nearly destroyed the home he built with his wife, Patsy, who herself lost her first husband, Danny, in Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan.
Matty Roberts, who suffered a devastating arm injury in combat, allows his treatment to be filmed in Mexico, offering viewers a rare look inside the process. These men's stories are represented without artifice. They speak directly to the camera, their words measured but unguarded. There is no dramatization of the battlefield and no replay of missions, only the lingering echo of what those years took from them.
What distinguishes In Waves and War from other post 9/11 veterans documentaries is its refusal to glamorize the military experience or pity those who served. Instead, it captures the reality of warriors learning to put down their armor. To visualize trauma and healing, Shank and Cohen incorporate animation sequences from London-based studio AKA. The style is fluid, shifting between images of helicopters, night vision raids, and faces dissolving into smoke or sand. These transitions mirror how memory works, especially for those processing trauma. One moment, the viewer is in a desert firefight, and the next, inside the mind of a man confronting his younger self. The effect is haunting, but it helps convey the internal experience of psychedelic therapy in a way words cannot.
While the film hints at the risk of psychedelic treatments, it largely stays focused on the positive outcomes. Viewers never see a failed session or a relapse, and some may question whether the film's optimism leaves out important context. But In Waves and War is not pretending to be a clinical study. It is a personal one. Its power lies in allowing veterans to speak for themselves about what worked when nothing else did. The emphasis is on hope, not science.
Wow. What keeps the film grounded is its honesty about how much healing still takes work. It sure does. Psychedelic therapy is not portrayed as a magic cure, but as a catalyst. The real effort begins afterwards when the participants return home and attempt to rebuild relationships and find purpose again. The film shows that facing trauma can be just as grueling as any deployment, but it is also an act of courage. The title, borrowed from ancient poetry, fits the storyline perfectly. In Waves and War captures how trauma recedes and returns like the tide, and how surviving it requires both endurance and surrender. For veterans who have spent their lives mastering control, surrender can be the hardest part. Shank and Cohen's film understands that, and it treats every subject with respect and restraint.
This is not a political documentary, nor does it wade into debates about drug policy. It focuses is more human. It asks, what happens when warriors who have done everything right still cannot find peace, and what they are willing to risk to get it. Whether psychedelic therapy becomes mainstream or remains controversial, the courage it takes for these veterans to seek help is undeniable.
In Waves and War stands alongside other post 9/11 works like Rest Repo or Of Men in War, but with a quieter tone. It's less about combat and more about the long, uneven path towards recovery. By the final frame, it leaves viewers not with a sense of despair, but with a flicker of hope. Healing, it suggests, might be possible, even for those who thought they were beyond saving. for service members and veterans watching, that message may be the most important mission of all.
Wow. That sounds like quite the movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to watch it today.
I'm going to have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll be talking to a couple of veterans tomorrow. I get a chance to watch that today. I'll let them know all about it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good one. I've watched other documentaries about healing with, particularly with ibogaine or iboga and 5-MeO. Dosed One was one. The Psychedelic Frontier was another who focused on a veteran as well. So I'm really excited to sit back and watch this one. I'm curious to who the facilitators are, honestly, and if I know them. Yeah. So I'm, but just to watch another documentary that shows us how amazing these medicines can be and how they can help people find their healing is, I'm super excited to watch it.
And it mentions, the one fella allows the cameras to come in during the ceremony.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I'm sure, are questioning or wondering how does that happen? What happens, during that time, and this will give them a look at that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
So
anything
we'll
else?
tell you all about it on Thursday after we watch it today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, anything else before we say goodbye?
Oh, I don't think so. Tomorrow, a mushy moment will not be on, as it is Remembrance Day. I'm wearing my poppy. So what a great time for this movie to be released on Netflix the day before Remembrance Day.
Yes.
So please take some time tomorrow to thank a veteran.
Yes, exactly. All right, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And to you, our viewers for tuning into the live video or catching the podcast afterwards. We always appreciate you tuning into the show. And as always, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.